Welcome to another exciting edition to GroveCityHockey Presents
Hockey in our neck of the woods, and you, sir, were a very talked about person towards the end.
I'm a fifth-year senior, kind of. Well, it's my sixth year of college. Incredible.
Hey guys, we want to say thank you to our sponsor, Cut Shield, for bringing you this episode. Make sure you check them out on the link below and use the promo code for 25% off your order. Used by all 32 NHL teams and players, Cut Shield is the premier protective player clothing designed by players for players. Their innovative cut-resistant clothing has prevented serious injury to numerous players, including over 30 NHL players. Cut Shield gives you the peace of mind to go out and play without worrying about injury. Use our promo code GroveCityHockey, all lowercase and no space, for an additional 25% off your order today. Welcome to GCA's podcast. I'm your host, Ben W. Stock, and with me is a very special guest. I've got Avery Cobe? Cobe. Okay. I just want to make sure I get that right. I always thought it was Cobe, but it could be Kobe, depending on how you want to look at it. But we've got the team captain of the Lansing Street Sharks and goalie for Active Stick Hockey. How you doing tonight, brother? You doing good?
I'm doing well. How are you, buddy?
Oh, I am in a struggle mode with the kids these days, but hey, that's, time for a different story on that. We're going to talk about you and your journey into, from ice hockey into roller hockey. So tell us a little bit about how you got involved in hockey. What's the one of the very first memories or moments that you remember, with hockey,
Yeah. So I remember being 12 years old watching Stanley Cup finals between the Devils and Anaheim, and J.S. Giguere is a really big part in me becoming a goalie. So my dad grew up in the UP, and he was a pretty big fan of hockey. He just turned it on one day, and I just fell in love with the game. I remember watching Jiggy in net and just thinking, that's what I want to do right there. That's what I was born to do. Did the whole, travel hockey for quite some time, and played up through juniors. But it never leaves you, right? You always want to be whatever you fall in love with, and I always wanted to be a goalie.
That's awesome. So tell me about the one moment that you were like, outside of what you just told us, that was like, you know what? I've tried the other sports, but I just keep, going to keep coming back to hockey. What was that moment like when you were trying out with the other sports?
Yeah, grew up playing soccer and did some, t-ball when I was really young. But as soon as I found hockey, it's never left me. I haven't played a single other sport since I was 12 years old. So as soon as I saw those Stanley Cup finals, I knew that's what I wanted to do. And honestly, hockey's been a saving grace. I was kind of a wild kid up until 12, and it leveled me out. So it just shows the importance of team sports can have on an individual. So
yeah, and it's crazy that you gravitated towards J.S. Giguere instead of Martin Brodeur, who was the goaltender, and the Devils, too, as they ended up winning that Stanley Cup that year.
It was just something about him. Just, I don't know. It was my first experience of watching hockey, and Giguere was this big goalie. He had the biggest pads in the league, right? He always found ways of putting more padding on his body. He looked like monstrous in net. And I don't know, just something about it stuck with me. I loved the helmet that he had with the flared feathers.
Yeah.
How every time he dropped into a butterfly, his legs seemed to be straight, but yet he was still taking up just as much net as anybody else. I don't know. He's something gravitated towards him.
That's awesome. So now let's move on. So now you were playing ice hockey. When did you first learn about roller hockey? When did you start playing roller hockey? And when did you, I mean, do you still play ice? Or is it more strictly just roller now?
Oh no, I think I play a lot more ice than roller hockey. There for a time it was more roller. But I remember my first experience playing roller was probably around 16. I had a buddy on my midget minor team that played, and we went out to his rink in Grand Rapids at that time. I don't think it's a rink anymore.
No, Rivertown is down. Yep, Rivertown it's expired.
And we played a drop in there, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I didn't start playing regularly until probably about 20, when I started playing at the YMCA in Lansing, which we have a little tiny 3-on-3 rink, probably about half the size of a normal rink. But yeah, that was probably around the time where I really started playing, and just it was just available hockey. I was working at the Y. And I knew the guy that ran the league at that time, Fred Thomas. He told me, we play here on Monday and Wednesday nights. So I just came out, jumped on a team, and never looked back. Just started playing since then.
There you go. Now, when did you jump into MIHA? I mean, you had obviously gotten a little bit of taste with your competitive juices playing juniors. Did you take a little bit of time after juniors to just kind of like, I'm trying to, when you're like in flux, like not sure what you're going to do, where it's kind of hard to, where you're like, I'm stepping back from the competitive juices, but then those competitive juices start to kick back in again.
Yeah. So, it's every kid's dream to play competitive hockey like that at a high level. I had the opportunity to play NA3HL, which is a very low junior A league. I was a third string, so I didn't see much playing time, but it wasn't really about that. It was about, the travel with the boys, hanging out, going on the road, 56 games, a lot of fun. There was tournaments spread out throughout the year too. So that was the point of juniors. And then afterwards, I knew I wasn't going to go anywhere with this. So went back to school, took a little time off, but still played ice hockey. And then, as far as getting into MIHA, when that happened was Dave Anderson. He is the team manager for the Saints. We all used to play at the YMCA on Monday and Wednesday nights. He put together a team, the Saints. We were out there that first. I think he did a couple of years before. I can't remember what year MIHA started, but
it was 2010. Dave had joined.
2010.
2010, I believe. And
I think this is my 12th year. So it's about.
And Dave's the longest reigning player, still playing actively, that I'm aware of. He was there from the get-go. When Carl Staple and Sean Conlon from the Chicago area all kind of pulled their resources together to get those teams in. So it's pretty cool that Dave's still sticking around, and I've been trying to get him on the pod for a minute, and he doesn't have the time, man. So I'm just kind of bummed.
Well, here's his shout out. So he actually got a lot. He's credited with getting a lot of players interested in MIHA. So he's brought in quite a few over the years.
Yeah, because he recruited you. And I want to say your first event was because I remember you. A skinny young kid coming in at just late 2012. Or early 2013, something like that.
Yeah. Yep, that sounds about right. Around that time. Because I think this is my 12th year. And I did take 1 year off when I was living on the West Coast. But, haven't missed MIHA since.
No, and rightfully so. It's a very competitive league. What have you noticed from your time at the, 12 years ago to now? What makes you want to keep coming back to play in MIHA?
I probably hear this a lot, but I think that the tiers get better every year gradually. I think they've seen more of a spike in talent in the last, I'd say, 3 or 4 years, and then deciding to add another tier to that league has actually increased the talent levels in the upper divisions. So. The T5 has drawn in some players that maybe didn't feel comfortable in that T4, or whereas it's also made some players that were in T3 that weren't really sure about T3 drop down to T4. So I definitely feel like T4 and T3 have seen spikes in competitiveness over the past 3 or 4 years. Played T3 last season with the Sharks. We did pretty well. I think we won a couple tournaments. And we did make it to the championships there and lost in the semis, I think. But
I believe that was your only loss, though.
We got 2 wins before that. But you come back this season and we lost a few guys that were leading scorers, and then since we had decided to drop down, a few went to other teams. But yeah, I mean, it's so competitive now in T4 that it has that T5 division that doesn't feel out of place. We feel this is where we should be at this moment.
Yeah, and it's nice to see him starting to implement, like, not necessarily like a relegation type system or a promotion system. He gives you guys the opportunity to, essentially prove yourselves. Like you guys did a couple years ago, where you guys basically ran the table. You only had one loss, and that was an overtime loss, if I'm not mistaken. You guys were kind of like told, hey, I need you guys, if you guys are going to keep the same core group of guys, you guys are going to need to go up. But then if you guys, got moved up, and it didn't work out for you, you guys were able to move back down that following year.
Yeah, Carl, I don't he even have to tell me.
Right.
So we had a really good season. That was the 2022 season.
Yep.
And we ended up winning that year. We had one loss to was it the Detroit?
I remember. No, it wasn't the Revolution. It was like it was the off-brand team. And I hate to say it like that.
Spencer was on it. I remember that Spence and Austin Cath on our squad.
Yep.
They always were going at it. But anyway, we had a really good season that year. And Carl didn't have to tell me. He said, he didn't have to come to me and say, if you want to keep the same squad, you got to move up. We knew we were going to move up. The whole point of that season was to try to build to a T3, which we did. We were able to put a team in the next year. But yeah, when you lose important pieces, you gotta recoup, move back down like we did this year. Yep. Find some new guys that'll make us competitive in T3, or find some team chemistry that makes us feel comfortable playing at an upper level, and then decide to make that jump again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you guys were able to, unfortunately, I hate to say you guys were able to move back down. You guys were kind of forced to move back, not necessarily forced either, but you guys dropped back down. You've got 8 games into the season. You guys are doing fairly decent, if I'm not mistaken. You're winning games, but you're also losing a couple of games here and there. But they haven't been like total blowouts, not like it was, in that 21-22 season either.
We've got one loss right now against the Leaf Rays. That was in a shootout. So all the others are regulation wins so far. We've won 2 tournaments. Got a great group of guys, great core. No, one standout player, which is great. You're getting scoring from all the lines. I feel like our team chemistry is high. A lot of us have been playing together for quite a few seasons. It's kind of like mixing actually 2 core groups, a Lansing group and a Detroit group that we've all played with. So they're learning to play with each other this year. And we're trying to keep lines so that we keep that chemistry, those that are familiar with each other. But yeah, it's been a good start to the season so far.
Yeah. Now, tell us a little bit about your team. Who did you guys bring on? Who ended up having to go elsewhere? Who got moved? Moved up to the? There is a T3, right?
No, we don't have a T3. I would say that our associated T3 would be Top Shelf. We all
Okay.
played in Flint together for
Yep.
for quite some time. And a couple of my former T3 skaters are playing with them this year since we're not doing a T3 team. And they've known Garrett a lot longer than they've known me. So
Right.
they have a little bit of allegiance towards him. But yeah, it's we lost this year. Tyler Atkinson, he's a great goal scorer. He's got a very powerful stride that allows him to break away from other players and open up space. We lost Koval as well. Koval's more of the playmaker of the two, and he's quite an authoritative type figure, demanding of respect on the rink and off the
Right.
rink. He's a really good guy though, and he very important piece of that squad last season. Austin Kath is playing with the Grand Rapids Growlers.
Okay.
He is highly skilled, great hands, great shot, great hockey IQ. So he's doing really well with them this season.
Yeah.
With those three,
That Growlers team is with Jaron and Keegan Horley, those guys seem to always bring it, especially with Keith Chapman in net. It's tough to with such a big body in that, it's tough to get that puck past them. But yes, and so I'll let you continue.
So then, they were the top three scorers on the squad. We collectively made a decision to drop down to T4 after losing, a very big percentage of your scoring, as well as our goalie, Ty Lynch, is also playing with Top Shelf. So, he was a big part of last season too. Lynchy's solid in net, and when he's on his game, there's no one better. So we decided to make the move down. We picked up Ralph and Austin Conchar. They are former Windy City players.
Okay.
Ralph's like the grinder type, does a lot of dirty work along the boards, gets in front of the goalie, makes sure there's a screen when there's a play in the zone. And Austin, his brother, is skilled skating wise, hand wise. He's got a very long stride since he's a taller guy, so he's able to create space and has a certain advantage over a lot of other players in that I think he's like 6'2" or 3, so he's got some height on him. Allows him to make plays that others might not be able to. So he's been a big part so far, and we kept the core Detroit boys together. So we got Bounty, we got Red, who's Kevin Clark, we call him Red. Andrew Saunders, Jacob Kanzler. These guys all used to play for State's club team, so they're very familiar with each other. Joe Boardman, part of that as well. So they'll work very well together, have some team chemistry going into this season, even if they haven't played with each other for a little while. And they're really helping us with this season so far in the position that we're in.
Nice. And you guys, your next event is going to be in Chicago, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
My next event is for Active Stick Hockey.
Active Stick, yep.
Our next event is the March 23rd, 24th in Taylor.
Okay. And then, because that'll be your third one. And then your fourth one will be, like a couple weeks just before the championships?
Yeah, I think it's in April, mid-April.
Okay. Yeah.
That one's in Fort Wayne.
Perfect timing, too, because, a lot of teams, they tend to either – and some of the older teams, because they get kind of preferential treatment as to what tournaments they get. They'll have a one tournament like at the beginning of the season as kind of like a throwaway to get everybody's juices going, and then they'll regroup and say, "Hey, what was working, what wasn't working," and then they'll come in with the final three tournaments and really try to put together a good solid run there.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about us falling off the bandwagon here, and I think that we're going to keep it together. Even if we don't manage to pull some tournament wins, like championships, out of these next couple tournaments, I think that we'll get the necessary record to make it into the championship tournament there in May. Like I said, got a great group, a great core that's and solid goaltending. You know how important goaltending can be. Our goalie, Sean Hubbardy, he's got 2 shutouts in championship games this year so far. So he is really holding the core together. Yeah. And our defense is going to push us into that championship. We've got a solid defensive core.
Right. Yeah. It's one of those, ones where, if you got the right role players that are, on your team, it really makes, the events fun because everybody knows what they're supposed to do. They go out and they do it, and they do it naturally. It's one of those things that I always enjoyed when I was recruiting was, okay, who am I going to get that is just going to be my natural goal scorers? Who am I going to get that's just going to be my natural grinders? Who am I going to get out there that's going to just give me 120% effort every shift? So it's one of those things where once you get those core group that you guys are comfortable with and that you can play and gel with, then who knows what can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. We brought on Joe Boardman and Garrett Park-Evans as well, who have played together for I would say over a decade at least. We all used to play back at the YMCA together. Together. And they have that familiarity. So they were able to bring a solid defensive line to our squad. And we already had a very great line with Jeremy Measers and Jordan Bird, who are more of our shutdown line. So you talk about the role players, everybody plays a part on the squad. I think that our squad has a very balanced core, no single player sticking out above the rest. Everybody plays to their role, plays to their exactly. Yeah. Plays to just having one of those brain farts.
No, you're good.
Plays to their strengths. But not one player is pushing us to get those wins, right? Everybody's locked in, everybody's contributing. So that's what's so great about this season and that 2022 season, who a lot of the same players are on this squad.
Nice. So now tell us a little bit about your active stick hockey team that you're playing with. You got picked up to play with some boys from Chicago. Tell us a little bit about those guys. How has that been, considering that you're in Michigan? And how did that come about? Let's just go from there.
They were struggling with getting skaters this year, and then they needed a goalie. So I told Carl I was available to play goalie for any T3 squad since we're not doing a T3 this year. What's been most difficult about it is, like you said, not doing double duty where you're playing out and in net and in single tournament. I'm doing 8 tournaments this year instead of 4, plus the championship. So 9 overall. I do think one of them does have double duty, though. I think the Fort Wayne one is double duty. Okay. But yeah, they're a great group of guys. There's some skill on that squad. If they could get a full lineup, which we've played shorthanded for 2 tournaments. If we get a full lineup, I think they're going to be a very competitive team. They're fun to play in back of. They've got some guys on that squad that have some great hands and have played together long enough to know where they're at on the rink without even taking a look, which it's cool to watch. When I'm in net, I think our biggest struggle, like I said, is just having guys show up to the tournaments when you're playing with 5 or 6 and maybe grab a sub. It becomes tough. You're not rolling 2 lines. You're rolling each player as they come in, and sometimes you get your positioning switched up because you don't have anybody to play defense or something like that, where they're forced into a position they're not comfortable in. And but if we can get a full squad this next tournament, I think that we're going to be looking at a very competitive group.
Yeah, and that's always the key when it comes to roller hockey. You run such small line because you only need 4 guys or 5 guys essentially, and then you've got yourself a team, an Iron Man team at that point. And then when you throw in, if you bring 6 guys or 7 guys, it's always tough because you need 9 guys at minimum to get 2 full lines plus your goalie. But it's always nice to see those 3 forwards and those 2, the 4 forwards or the 3 forward lines, I should say. So that's 6 guys in the forwards, your 4 defensive guys, and then you're able to roll those out and keep them going. It's one of those things where it's nice to have, but at the same time, as it's not always a guarantee to happen because scheduling conflicts comes up, an emergency happens, and you're just shorthanded.
Yeah, and it's so far it's been travel for that last tournament for them, but this one's back in Chicago, so hopefully we'll have a full lineup this time around.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And I'm going to try to get Russ Christopher on with the Windy City Syndicate. Uncle Russ, as everybody likes to call him from time to time. He's also been one of the original mainstays as well. So it's nice to finally see some of these. I don't want to say old timey guys, but it's nice to see everybody that that are still playing when right when I was having to take a step away from the game. So, especially after all these years.
Yeah, it is great to see all the familiar faces every tournament. Some guys that have been playing in the league for a decade plus. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Carl and Staple have really rejuvenated the roller leagues here within the East Coast area or Midwest area. So it's been great.
Yeah. What is so from an outsider looking in, you're looking at the T2, T3, and T5 divisions. You already mentioned how great it is for the T5. Bringing in players that may not have felt comfortable playing in T4. Now they're getting a chance to play in T5. What is your take on the T2 division? And as far as the skill level is absolutely insane. You've got several pro players playing, that are playing in State Wars, the Palma Pro Invitational. They're doing the tours. They're doing, all of this, the Narch Pro, all of this stuff. Those guys are starting to finally, from the Midwest, are starting to finally, come together and start playing it in MIHA at that upper T2 division. Give us your take on watching those guys play and how it inspires your game. How does it affect your game? For me, as a former player, I always go, yeah, man, I wish I could get back out there and skate with these guys because this would be so much fun.
Maybe if I dropped 100. It's T2 is very fast. You if you're just a spectator and you're watching it, you almost feel like there's more room out there than there is in your league. But it's just because they're so fast, right? They're just able to open up the space more. Their legs are moving so much quicker. They're a lot of fun to watch. There's a lot of guys out there with some great skill. I watched Nick Smolinski and Haji go at it in the last tournament that I watched T2. That was fun. Like I said, it's, as far as it having influence on our game, it just shows that there's some highly competitive roller hockey out there that I hope that inspires the young generation to want to continue to play and grow and have this league continue to grow. I think that there's a lot of young kids that go out there and they look up to them, and they're a lot of fun to watch, obviously. But yeah, I'm like you. I watch them and I say, if I was 100 pounds lighter, I'd be out there with them.
Yeah,
I know,
if my back could hold up, I'd be out there too.
I know I got the head for it. I know I got the hands for it. I just don't have the foot speed.
Yeah. Now, I will say back in 2012, 2013, you would have made a really good addition to that T2 division.
I played T2 Gamblers one season,
Yeah.
but I think that the T2 comparable back then is now a T3, right? And
Oh, I'm probably a T4 team, to be honest with you.
Maybe, yeah. In between, we'll call it a T3B.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. I like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, 100 pounds lighter, skating much faster, right? So, I like it. If I was at that point in my life, still might be out there playing with them, especially in goal. I still feel like your weight obviously plays a part on your skill level as you get heavier, but a lot of guys can bypass that in net. But if I dropped maybe 50 pounds, I could get in T2 as a goalie.
Yeah, I think you can do it now.
6 inches in height.
Yeah, I don't know about that. That's going to be tough. Well, I guess you could just add some lifts to your skates. You can get it that way.
Yeah. I get one of those inverters and stretch myself.
Right. Those actually do a really good job of separating your spine. I will say that. that was one of the things that really. Inverters. You got to get the body stretcher from like in the Princess Bride. So, but yeah, it's one of those things where you always go, man. I look at it, and I always look at it from like when I was playing hockey and softball, and I would see like those home run derbies on the TV, and I go, man, I could do that, and then I'd take one wrong swing, and now my back is all jacked up again. So it's just one of those things where it's like, yep, like you said, your mind is there, your hands are there. But the body just says not anymore, man. So it's always a tough bitter pill to swallow. But at the end of the day, you just have to look at it from a logical standpoint.
Yep.
So.
I'll stay back and watch them. I'll try to make that T3.
Yeah, and I love interviewing them. Those guys are always great. I've had Haji on and Nick Smolinski both on the pod. Both those guys are class acts, and along with several other guys from last season as well. I haven't had a chance to really get out too much with the T2 guys this year, but that's because I'm just trying to bring awareness to all of the other divisions as well. With some T5 guys, some T4 guys, get some T3 guys on there. So because you guys all deserve it. You guys all have great stories to tell. And it's one of those things where I just cannot wait to share your stories to our audiences, to the players that you're playing against. So that way, when you guys get done off the rink, you guys you're still having more beers, even though you guys are just kicking the crap out of each other. That's what it's all about for me.
Yep. Bringing us all together. And you can be enemies on the rink, but off of it, let's have a beer.
Yep, exactly. So. Tell us your expectations, before we cut this off. You've got, like you said, you got 2 tournaments left with the Lansing Street Sharks. You got a couple more left with the Active Stick as well. Are you hoping to make the championships with both teams?
I think with the Street Sharks, it's fairly likely that we're going to be in the championships. Not saying that there aren't teams out there that can beat us. We know this is a very competitive league. Detroit Revolution's been with us 2 games now, 1 goal wins. They play so structured. The Leaf Rays, they've got 2 guys out there skating circles around everybody else, and the rest of the players
Spencer,
are
I think
very
his last
competitive.
Yeah, and I think Spencer Colton, I think is his name. I've been getting him, talking to him, trying to get him on the pod. That guy's just playing out of his mind right now. Yeah. I mean, I think the nearest, the guy that's in second place has got like 10 points below him, which is crazy.
And then you got teams like we just played the Growlers this weekend. This is their first tournament. I think that you're going to see them jump in the standings. They've got a really solid group. Obviously, the Columbus Heat. Happy to say that we gave them their first loss this past tournament, but they scored 4 on us in the first. We had to have a great comeback to win it 5-4. So they have the potential to. I mean, we thought that was going to be a blowout, right? We thought we were going to be mercied that game. So, but I would expect that the Street Sharks team is going to make the championships. Active stick hockey is going to be much more difficult with the record that we have now. We'd have to have 2 really good tournaments, some great showings. Not saying it can't happen. Make sure we get a full squad, and you never know what's going to happen out there. But yeah, that's about where it sits right now. Have 2 fun tournaments with both squads, one of them together. So only 3 tournaments left the rest of the year before the championships.
Yeah. So, that's going to do it for this episode. Avery, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to shoot the breeze. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And we are able to get you back on in the future to talk about your predictions for the championships. That's one of those things that I would love to see. If we can make that happen, that would be great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ben. It was a lot of fun.
All right, brother. Well, again, I'm Ben W. Stock. This is Avery Cobe. We are signing off for this episode, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side.